Hey everybody, Jinza here, and it's that time of the week again. It's a Monday. Well, it's a Sunday for me, but it'll be a Monday for you guys. So it's time for another Small Bytes, where we take a little nibble at a game and see what's happening with it. So this week we are playing Planet Centauri. It's only a small game that's still in development. I've actually been following this probably since, it's pretty much since it was a Kickstarter project, and I backed it, and I tried it out after the Kickstarter had finished and they released the first, I believe it was the alpha demo. So that was probably about 2 months after, and it gave me about 14 hours of game time, so it was a fairly competent, I guess it was more of a tech demo at the time. So I played it then and basically did everything I could, got myself burnt out on it, and I'm revisiting now. So I've played a couple of hours just so I've got some actual things to show you and some of the mechanics I can actually show you, rather than just jumping into a barren world where I have nothing. So we'll go and select my character. I won't bother showing you the character options. It's pretty much, as you can imagine, hair, eyes, and different colours. It does have a really nice colour slider, though. It's actually a full-on colour palette, so you can actually choose what character you want. The worlds don't seem to have large, small. You don't really have options for customising your world, which, I don't know, it's not too bad, but it would be nice maybe to see in the future they put some options to actually customize where you start out. So you get this little cool cutscene when you actually first come in, and the basic premise is that you're a kind of, I guess, space explorer, and your ship's gone down and you land on this planet. So when you first start off, you basically just have this gem here, which is kind of acts as a tutorial. It's a little quests, and you basically go through it and do what it says to do, and it sort of kind of teaches you about the basic mechanics of this game, because there is a lot to this game. I mean a lot. If you've never played a game like this, which obviously it's kind of like Terraria and Starbound and other games of that genre, I think there's another one I played, Edge of Space I believe it was, and there's plenty more on the horizon that keep coming out, but I actually really enjoy stuff like this, so I don't mind. They can keep bringing them to me. Anyway, so if you haven't played a game like this, it's probably going to be quite daunting, because there's so much going on with this game. Even I keep getting a bit confused and have to faff about and try stuff out. So where on earth do we start? I guess we'll start with the character menu, and we'll go a bit about what the character has. So one thing I really like about this game is I'm pretty sure this is an infinite inventory. At least if it's not, it's absolutely humongous. I know some people are really not going to like this, because some people like the whole inventory management and stuff like that, but I generally don't mind. I like being able to loot everything I possibly can and not have to worry about space. It does mean chests and stuff like that, which you can get in the game, are kind of pointless, because do you really need to put stuff in chests? I mean, it's done so nicely that you can quickly organize everything, so you can just dump it in, and then you can actually just go through on these different tabs, and it shows you all the different stuff that you can get if you don't actually want to scroll through a whole entire inventory. The characters currently have, I believe that was called a medallion. You can get stamina or health. It's basically just a little health boost. It looks like there's wings, some kind of necklace. I don't know if that's a vanity pet. You have head, chest and legs for armor, and then 4 rings, and then there is currently vanity items. As you see, I have a little zombie mask because it makes my character look awesome, because why not? And I believe you get these, I don't know if they're in chests, but I got this from a monster. For some reason they vary in rarity, but there doesn't seem to be no change between the rarities, so I don't know what's going on with that. I guess maybe that's something they're going to do in the future, because it is still in development, so it's only by a small team, I believe. I believe it's 4 or 5 people that are only developing this game, so obviously development is sort of ongoing. What else? So that's basically your character menu. We're going to basic crafting, so this is all your basic gear that you can craft on the fly, torches and so on and so forth, but torches actually aren't really a major issue. Obviously, you want to put some in your house to light it up and make it look nice, but I'll go into why the torches aren't really a major issue in this game just a bit later as we actually explore. So you have all different crafting options. There's a lot of this is vanity. As you can see, you can craft all these different tables, and these basically serve as tables to craft all your chairs, vanity items, and you craft the table to craft items of that type. So say if you want to craft slime chairs and that, you do that in the slime crafting table. So it's fairly well organized because, as I said, the crafting is extensive, as you see as I can scroll through. And most of this is vanity. There are a lot of different things that do serve for utility purposes, and we'll go into those in a minute. So you have all your generic forges for crafting, well, weapons and armor. At the moment, I can only craft up to gold. I'm not sure if it goes higher than that. I can't remember if it did beforehand. I have to look into that, but that's still not too bad. Up to gold, and the armors actually do really look really nice. And between each set, apart from the chest and legs, the helmet changes drastically, as you can see. You can also get different kinds of styles and make stuff. You can also, a lot of the time, make stuff out of random different things. So, as you can see, you can actually just straight up upgrade a tin pickaxe to a bronze one by using a copper bar, or you can just craft it by using bronze bars, which is a really nice way of doing things. And there's also this thing, which is, I forget what it's called. I think it was a foundry. And you can actually turn that stuff back into bars. So once you're done with that armor and you want your next upgrades, instead of throwing it in the trash or dumping it in a chest, you can actually turn it into something, I guess, semi-useful, because you can use it for crafting vanity stuff. There is tons and tons and tons of different food items in this game. For the most part, you find some of these out where you're just walking around and you can get the seeds and then you can come back and plant them. Or you'll find these in chests, and we'll go into the chests in a little bit about their mechanics and what happens. You can also, what's nice is all the armor and weapons, you can actually add runes to them. So if we look at this sword here, it actually has a rune on it, and you can take them back off and put them back on. Each rune obviously has defense and attack, so if you obviously, one's for adding it to the weapon and one's if you wanted to add it to your armor instead. So at the moment I currently have extra cutting damage on my sword. As far as loot goes, it's probably one of the things that, it's not overly disappointing, but there doesn't seem to be a huge variety of fancy loot that you can get out in the wild. A lot of it is stuff like this. I got this off an enemy. It's exactly the same model as the sword, one of the swords that you start out with. Actually, I think you can craft it from here. So kind of like this wooden sword, but I believe you craft, yeah. So that rookie sword and the basic sword are very similar. It's just got extra stats on it. There doesn't seem to be any drastic changes. Not that I've seen at the moment. They have I don't know if they have added bosses to this game, so I'm not sure if the bosses drop some really good loot. And obviously, I've only played a couple of hours into this world, so we haven't gone down into the depths and seen if we get some really fancy stuff from the really hard stuff at the moment, because I'm still a little newbie. And the monsters are quite relentless in this game, so you might want to watch out for that. Another nice thing is you can craft your own spells. I haven't actually been able to do this because for doing this fire spell you need gems, and specifically ruby gems. So for each different type of spell you need a different kind of gem which you can find, and you can see I have pretty much everything but ruby, which is kind of annoying, but I can still show you how it works. So you need parchment and a gem, so it's pretty easy to get if you've got the gem already. And what you can do, as you can see, you've got power, speed and life, and you can actually customize this to change directions. So you can fire it straight or there can be 3 that come out, or all around. So they sort of explode and go out all like shrapnel. You can even change the motion of it. If it does a little wiggle, obviously arcs or bounces, and I believe that's so you do it on death, or if you kill the monster it does it on death. I'm not entirely sure, but obviously you don't want to put all of these different things on because they do affect how your magic spell comes out. There's also these monster gems, and you make these with some amethysts, and basically you can capture any monster in the game. At the moment I just stood a wisp, as you can see. It doesn't even attack. The monsters do level up as well, so as they kill stuff they get XP and they get stronger, so you can level them. So it's pretty much like Pokemon. I believe you can even ride some of the bigger monsters as well, and they can serve as mounts. There is also NPCs in this game, as you probably noticed and wondered, who the hell is this wandering around? I think they're called Chlorians. You basically, when you're digging down in the earth, sometimes you can find, I think they were called prisons, and you can free them. And once you've freed them, they can come to your house, just like in Terraria. The difference is these guys don't seem to have like merchants or anything. They seem to be based on jobs, so you can give them jobs. So cook, smith, alchemist, guardian, and yeah, so that's pretty much what they can be. I don't know if they vary if you free different ones. I do him as an alchemist, and honestly he doesn't really seem to do anything. I don't know if you have to put items in chests for him to actually go ahead and start doing stuff, but he pretty much just wanders around and doesn't really do much, so I don't know what's going on there. That's something I will have to test further. As you can see, there is lots of different potions in this game, as you might expect, especially with how this sort of genre is progressing. Right, before we go into the hotbar and the souls and all stuff like that, I just want to have a quick discuss about the actual building. Let's get a bit of flatland. So when you have a building block selected, you can change the different types from this little menu over here, so you can place slanted ones and that down, which is quite nice rather than having to use, let's compare it to Terraria, like the hammer and having to individually go through blocks. It's quite a nice way to do it, and you can change whether you want to put it on the front and back. And this is probably one of my favorite things about this game, is placing stuff is pretty much just like painting. It's so fluid, and there's not even any sounds to placing stuff. It's pretty much just go for it. There's a pink chicken there. As for block variety, there seems to be a fair few. I'm sure there's going to be more, especially later on as this gets more developed. But you do have some. Let's have a look at the actual thingy. So I believe in here, maybe it was actually in the forge. Yeah. So you got all the stone, sand, glass. As you can see, there's all different types. I think there's about 3 or 4 different types of actual wood. You can't actually place wood the wood you get straight from trees down. You actually have to craft it into some form of building material. But yeah, it's probably one of my favorite things about this game is just how fluid it is. It is pretty much like painting with your mouse. Right, now on to the hotbar. So this is something that I found a bit complicated to start off with, especially when you're used to stuff like Terraria and Starbound, because they all use very similar mechanics. This does it a little bit different. So as you can see, one actually starts from here, and this is a separate slot. You don't have to have a weapon in here. You can actually put your pickaxe in there if you wanted. And what this serves as is your left mouse button is exclusively this. So that is when you left click. Your right mouse button is everything on your hotbar that you have selected. So you are actually able to use multiple stuff at the same time. So you can quickly switch between range and all that on the fly. And that's actually really nice. Once you get used to it, it's a really cool thing. The only downside is if you double tap a key by accident, As you can see, it swaps, and that can actually get quite confusing. They don't really need that in, because for the most part you're going to have something that you want to use constantly on this one. So if you're doing a lot of mining, you can have your pickaxe on there and just continuously mine. And then obviously if stuff comes out, you can shoot it with your bow or fling your boomerang at it. As for the actual enemies, let's go actually wander out. Enemies don't generally spawn near that little crystal area. You have to go further out to find them. So let's go a little further out. Maybe we'll encounter a slime. At night time, zombies spawn and they come out the ground. They clamber out the ground. As you can see, as the chickens run away. But let's go find a slime, and I can go into talk a little bit about the souls mechanic and the chests. I don't actually know if there's chests around. All right, here's an enemy. So all the enemies. Oh, I forgot we've thingy. There we go. Confused myself already. So all the enemies, as you can see with this chicken, they spawn with random stats on them. So even though enemies can be very similar, at the same time they can be really different. So you may think that you're suddenly really good at killing, say, scorpions or slimes, and then one really nasty bugger with crazy stats comes along and absolutely destroys you. But you kill the enemies and you can gather souls, and with the souls you open the chests, and obviously in the chests there's loot, as you might imagine. So basically souls are kind of a currency, and you kind of use the currency as a key to open the chests. The basic Betty chests, the brown ones, I believe they're 150 souls. So they don't take much to open, and it basically doubles as it increases, but obviously you get better loot in stuff. So one of my biggest gripes with this souls mechanic, it's a really fun little mechanic, but as you can see, the bigger enemies, we're going to get attacked by something nasty here. The bigger enemies tend to drop more souls, and the trouble is when the souls come out, they just explode and go all over the place. Let's actually run away, because this thing's going to kill us. That thing's really nasty. Yeah, the desert is not friendly. And this is my problem. You can't explore in peace. Oh god, we've got stuff all over the place. And you see souls have actually gone under there, so to get to them, I actually have to go dig down. And you see they just go all over the place. Oh, we actually got a katana there. Oh, we got a new weapon. That's actually a different weapon. So there you go. That is something to do with a variety of loot. So they have added different loot. So I rescind my comment there. We'll have a look at that in a sec if we don't die. But as you can see, the enemies are really relentless, and you won't get some for a while, and then suddenly it's just boom. Constantly all over the place. Okay, we died. It doesn't matter. You lose a few souls when you die, and that's it. But let's have a look at this katana. So let's have a look. So how different does that sword look? Yeah. So there are some semblance of different weapons. I think that was actually classed as I guess kind of a legendary one. But for the most part, they're not crazy, so there doesn't, for now anyway, there doesn't seem to be anything that's like really wacky and wild. But as I said, maybe if you go down really deep and start fighting the really, really hard monsters, you might suddenly start to get like flaming swords and electric swords and swords made out of air and all that good stuff. So, and you know, I'm sure that's something that the developers probably want to add into the game eventually anyway, because it is a sort of very fantasy orientated game with a bit of sci-fi thrown in for good measure. Right, so before we head off, let's just have a look at the caves. So this is what I was on about the torches, not really necessary. Your character emits light, and I know some people are not going to like that, because some people like the whole survival aspect of being in the dark. But honestly, it just makes exploring a lot more interesting, where you don't have to keep placing torches everywhere. Obviously, placing torches if I can speak, still does come in handy, because it obviously shows you where you've been. But for the most part, if you just want to run around and actually dig and explore, you can do that without the bother of having to place torches down every couple of steps just so you can see, or having some super fancy thingy later on. Let's kill that chicken. They obviously, as you can see, you can find chests. I believe I looted that one already. Yeah, you can find chests deep down just as you can on the surface, and again, the further you go down, the better rarity of chests you can find, but also the nastier the enemies, but at the same time, the better the souls and the better the loot. So, a bit of give and take. Is pretty well balanced. The caves, on the other hand, they're not that interesting. Occasionally you come across something cool. I believe there's stuff like dungeons and stuff down here where you have like all different traps and little obstacle course to go through. And as I said before, the prisons. But for the most part, they're not that interesting. Not until you get really far down. I'd like to see them maybe do something a bit more interesting with these basic ones. As you can see, there's actually the terrain actually slopes and that, rather than being like completely blocky, and you can actually slip down a lot of these. So some of these that look like they would be okay to step on, your character will actually just slide straight back off. So you do have to be a bit careful about your footing. But for the most part, this game's actually really interesting. It does have a good lot of stuff to be doing on it, and if you like building, as I said, the building mechanics are so good. They're really fluid, and I just like this let's actually select it. I just like this little menu here. It just makes stuff so handy. You know what you're placing before you've placed it. You don't have to think, oh well, I think I might need to hit that block and change it into something else. And it does take a bit of getting used to remember to keep switching this. I do believe, I think it's shift. That's something we actually haven't looked at, was the menu. So there is actually no options menu currently outside of the game, which when you first do this is in a weird resolution. So don't panic. As soon as you get into the game, you can change your graphics resolution. It's pretty basic. You can change the zoom, the different shadows, ambient shadows. It's a very basic options menu. I'd like to see them put this outside of the game, because just for convenience, it's a lot easier to be able to customize all your graphics before you actually get into the game. Some games do suffer with problems for when you start changing stuff inside the game. They freak out on you and whatnot. As for the controls, you do have rebindable keys. I actually just changed that to escape. But you do have rebindable keys, so you can actually customize your keyboard, which is nice. I like to see they put that in. And there's basically auto switch. It does have an auto save on the game. It doesn't seem to pop up all that often. I don't know if you can change that within the config files outside of the game. You have to probably have a look on the forums for that, how often it auto saves, because especially if you've got a PC that's not amazing, or just generic stuff, like maybe you're in a storm and you got a power outage, who knows. But I don't know how often that actually saves. It doesn't seem to save really often, so you might want to remember just to pop on here and just force it to save, just to make sure you don't lose your progress. You do, when you actually exit the game, when you come back in, it will actually port you back to your little home area. So you have to remember that if you're playing this a little while and then you got to go do something, you're gonna lose your progress. You got how far you got down, or how far to the sides you got, or something you was doing off elsewhere away from your house. So bear that in mind, but it also does serve as a quick teleport back to the surface if you want to be a bit sneaky about it. Anyway, guys, I think I've rambled on and kept you all long enough. I think you get the gist of what this game is and what it offers. So yeah, this was Planet Centauri, and you know exactly what to do. Like and subscribe, and we will see you next week for another small bites and a little nibble. Bye-bye.